Part 1. The Mystery of the Red Queen. Hello, everyone. Tonight, we will begin an exciting journey about a forgotten historical figure, a powerful woman from the ancient Mayan civilization, the Red Queen. Today, her name is still unknown, but her tomb has brought us a mysterious story that history has never told. It all started in 1994, when a Mexican archaeological team excavated a tomb located right in the center of Palenque, one of the famous Mayan cities. This tomb was no ordinary find. When archaeologists opened the lid of the sarcophagus, they found a body completely covered in cinnabar, a fiery red sacred mineral. And the strangest thing was that there was no inscription or text to indicate the woman's name. So who was she? Maya history has shown that women were not simply wives of kings, but played an extremely important role in society, especially in the worship of the gods. In the case of the Red Queen, the burial objects with her, from jade, cinnabar, to the ritual tools surrounding her body, prove that she was an indispensable figure in the Maya civilization. She may not have been a queen mentioned in the inscriptions, but her respect and power were not small. There's a little-known oddity about cinnabar, in addition to being used in religious ceremonies. Cinnabar was also believed to have medicinal properties. However, that's also why it's one of the most toxic substances when exposed to over time. Even the Mayans didn't fully understand the toxicity of cinnabar, but they still believed it had magical powers. Weird, right? How can we explain the absence of the Red Queen from Mayan history? Could it be a cultural norm, or is it simply that powerful women in this civilization were not recorded publicly? What do you think about the role of women in ancient civilizations? Could powerful figures like the Red Queen be forgotten in the pages of history? Share your thoughts in the comments below the video. Part 2. Cinnabar and the relationship with the divine. After discovering the tomb and the strange objects buried with the Red Queen, archaeologists began to delve deeper into the meaning of cinnabar, the fiery red mineral that covered her body. Cinnabar was not just a decorative material or a rare ingredient. It was a substance that was used in rituals to worship the gods, and for the Maya, it was more than just a mineral. It had supernatural powers. Because of its bright red color, cinnabar was considered a symbol of blood, life, and rebirth. The rituals in which cinnabar was involved were not simply sacrificial, but a way to connect humans with the gods, with the afterlife. Because cinnabar contained mercury, this poison was used intentionally to protect the souls of the dead as they entered a challenging world. Curiously, although cinnabar was very toxic, the Maya did not know about its toxicity. They simply believed that it was a material that could help protect the souls of the dead and increase their strength in the afterlife. This makes us wonder about how ancient civilizations explained phenomena they did not understand. Was cinnabar really the divine material they thought it was? Or was it just a way for them to explain the power to overcome death? If cinnabar was only used in rituals, why was it used to cover the Red Queen's body? Was she not just a normal woman, but someone with divine influence in society? Or was it simply a cultural signal of the Maya period, where anything with the power to worship could be transformed into something powerful? What do you think about the use of toxic materials in spirit worship rituals? Can we find parallels in other cultures that use natural materials to connect with the divine? Share your ideas below this video. Part 3. The location of the tomb and mysterious relationships. Another notable detail in the discovery of the Red Queen's tomb is its location. The tomb was not located in a remote location, but right next to the burial site of Paul, one of the great kings of Palenque. This proximity is no coincidence, but a strong indication of the relationship between the two figures. Archaeologists and historians have begun to speculate that the Red Queen was not only a powerful figure, but also someone very close to Paul, perhaps his wife, his mother, or someone who played an extremely important role in maintaining the power and influence of the Maya Empire. The placement of the Red Queen's tomb near Paul also raises a major question about how Mayan society was organized. Did powerful women like the Red Queen help determine the greatness of dynasties, accompanying kings in maintaining stability and expanding the empire's territory? It is worth noting that the construction of tombs in the Maya civilization was not always purely a burial site. The locations of tombs, especially important ones like Paul and the Red Queen, were always chosen very carefully, based on factors such as the direction of the sun, natural elements, and beliefs about the afterlife. This shows that the Maya placed great importance on ensuring that the souls of the deceased could make a smooth transition into the spirit world. Is the Red Queen's tomb's proximity to Paul a testament to the equality of power between kings and queens in Maya society? Or is it a way for the Maya to honor their powerful women? Did ancient society value women in positions of power as much as we think? Historically, what do you think about the relationship between male and female power? What can today's society learn from powerful queens in ancient civilizations like the Red Queen? Share your ideas below the video. Part 4, The Red Queen and the Silent Power. When we think of powerful figures in history, few are as forgotten as the Red Queen. While kings and warriors are often recorded in history books, women like her can be overlooked. Yet when we look at the items buried with her, from glowing jade to ceremonial tools, we can't deny that she was an important figure. Certainly no ordinary woman, the Red Queen held an irreplaceable place in Mayan society, not just because she was the wife of a king, but because she exerted a profound influence on ritual, politics, and spirituality. You might be wondering, how could a woman have such a big influence in an ancient society where most of the power belonged to men? But the reality is not as you think. In the Mayan civilization, although men were often at the top in terms of politics, the role of women in worshiping the gods, conducting royal ceremonies, and even helping to maintain peace between tribes could not be overlooked. One of the most unique aspects of the Red Queen is her appearance in the burial tomb. Although there are no written or recorded records of her name, the sacred objects surrounding her suggest that she was a person of divine power in society. This makes one wonder how history can forget important figures, not because they are unworthy, but because their achievements are sometimes only recorded through cult seals, rather than through writing or stone tablets. Why do ancient civilizations tend to record the achievements of men more than women? Despite their equally important roles, is this an oversight in the historical record or an intentional act on the part of the historians? What can we do in today's society to protect and honor these forgotten legacies? Do you think the role of women in ancient civilizations has been minimized compared to reality? How can we recognize powerful women like the Red Queen in history? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below this video. Part 5, The Red Queen and the Legacy of Power. When the Red Queen's tomb was excavated, archaeologists found not only precious objects, but also a clear message about her power. Historians agree that although her name is not recorded in ancient texts, the burial objects indicate that she was an important figure in her society. The jade, the ritual tools, and even the special location of the tomb all are signs of someone who held great power in Mayan society. The absence of a name may be because kings and male leaders did not want women to wield too much power, or simply because women were not recorded in official documents. This makes us rethink how history has treated powerful women. While powerful women like the Red Queen were not recorded by name, their legacy is evident in rituals, in worship, and in burial objects, things that only important people deserved. Interestingly, in the Maya civilization, although many of the elite were men, women played an extremely important role in rituals, especially those related to the worship of the gods. Some studies have shown that women, especially those with power in the royal family, often participated in the conduct of rituals for the worship of the gods, reflecting the undeniable power of women in Maya society. How many powerful figures in ancient civilizations have been overlooked because of gender bias in historical writing? And could the absence of this queen be an indication of the unfair recognition of women's roles in history? Do you think we will see more stories of powerful women who have been forgotten in history being discovered and recognized in the future? What do you think we can do to preserve these legacies for future generations? Share your thoughts in the comments. Part 6. The combination of divine and power. When we look at the relics and artifacts surrounding the Red Queen's tomb, we see not only precious objects, but also a strong connection between power and divinity in Maya society. The murals, the ritual tools, and especially the exquisite jade pieces buried with her all reflect the fact that she was not only a powerful woman, but also someone who played an extremely important role in the rituals of the gods. One element that is less well known is the way the Maya used ritual objects to connect with the gods and provide protection for the souls of the dead. The Red Queen may not be a person whose name is recorded in history books, but the items buried with her show that she was an integral part of the stability and development of Maya society. This opens up a new perspective on the combination of earthly and divine power in ancient civilizations. It is a curious fact that in ancient civilizations, it was not uncommon for powerful people to be buried with precious objects. But in the case of the Red Queen, the combination of sacred objects such as cinnabar and jade shows that she was not only highly regarded in the mortal world, but was also considered to have a special role in the spiritual world. This also makes us think about how ancient civilizations valued the relationship between the living and the dead, between power and faith. Could the combination of secular and divine power in ancient civilizations help explain the lasting power and influence of figures like the Red Queen? Were these sacred rituals instrumental in the longevity of ancient dynasties, or were they simply part of the maintenance of family power? What do you think about the combination of earthly and divine power in ancient civilizations? Can we find similarities in modern societies? Share your thoughts below the video. Part 7. The mysterious tomb and the disappearance of history. When archaeologists opened the Red Queen's tomb, they discovered not only precious objects, but also a treasure trove of unwritten history. The tomb, which contained no records of the woman's name, told a story of a lost history. The objects buried with her, from jade to cinnabar, were clear evidence of the Maya's respect for her. But why was there no record of her name? This raises the interesting question of why in ancient civilizations some powerful figures were forgotten, despite their important roles in society. Is it because in civilizations like the Maya, only kings or male leaders were recorded by name, while women who might have held powerful roles were not mentioned? Or is it because historical records were only kept for those with clear and public power? While people like the Red Queen were remembered only through cult objects and rituals, one interesting detail about the Red Queen is that she was buried in a tomb that was not violated by grave robbers. This is in contrast to many other leaders' tombs throughout history, where even precious artifacts were not spared from the greed of those seeking profit. But the Red Queen's tomb remained intact, possibly because the Maya believed that protecting the tombs of powerful people was a way to keep their souls at peace and undisturbed. Is the absence of names in history a sign that women's contributions in ancient civilizations were never given the same recognition as men's? And can we see the lack of names in these tombs as part of a strategy to protect the power of figures like the Red Queen? What do you think about the fact that the names of powerful figures, especially women, were erased from ancient civilizations? How would history view them if they were recorded in history books? Share your thoughts below this video. Part 8. Archaeologists' discoveries and unsolved mysteries. In 1994, when the Red Queen's tomb was discovered, archaeologists not only found valuable artifacts, but also opened up a treasure trove of knowledge about the Maya civilization that had not yet been explored. They discovered that in this civilization, honoring the dead was not limited to rituals. The construction of tombs was an integral part of maintaining the power of clans. And people like the Red Queen, although not listed in historical records, still held an important role in the hearts of the people. However, after the tomb was excavated, archaeologists still had many difficulties in determining the exact role of the Red Queen. Elements in the tomb not only reflected power, but also showed a combination of divine worship and earthly power. This made it difficult for researchers to easily analyze and draw conclusions about her true role in Mayan society. There is a little-known detail when archaeologists opened the Red Queen sarcophagus. They not only found her body covered in cinnabar, but also discovered that the jade stones buried with her were not just decorative. Some of these jade stones showed signs of wear, which may indicate that they were used in important rituals. This is evidence that she was involved in the worship of the gods, not only as a wife and mother in the royal court, but also as a major influence in the sacred rituals of the Maya. Can we determine the exact role of the Red Queen based on her burial objects? Did history and ancient civilizations obscure the elements of the worship of gods in identifying powerful figures, especially women? Do you think the lack of official information about the Red Queen's name was part of a strategy to control power in Mayan society? Or was she truly a powerful figure hidden in the shadows of history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Part 9. The Red Queen and the Secret of Power Relationships. One of the most remarkable things about the Red Queen is her relationship with Pal, the famous king of Palang. Although not officially named in historical records, the fact that the Red Queen's tomb is located near Pal's location suggests a close power connection between them. Researchers believe that the proximity of their tombs is more than just a coincidence of geographical location. It is possible that the Red Queen was not only a powerful woman in the royal court, but also someone who played an indispensable role in maintaining the power and stability of the Maya Empire. The objects buried with her, from jade to cinnabar, were not only ceremonial, but also part of the power she held. This makes us think about the relationship between political and spiritual power in Maya society. The Red Queen may not have been a king, but through her rituals and the objects buried with her, she clearly had a great deal of influence in the important decisions of the empire. An interesting detail is that the Red Queen was buried with cinnabar, a mineral that was believed to protect the souls of the dead. Cinnabar was not only a symbol of worship, but also a connection between the earthly world and the divine world. The Maya believed that using cinnabar would help the souls of the dead rest in peace in the afterlife, protecting them from evil spirits. But strangely, cinnabar contained mercury, a powerful poison. This shows the contradiction between worship and danger that the Maya faced. Is the relationship between the Red Queen and Pal an example of the sharing of power between kings and queens in Mayan society? Or is she a symbol of the combination of divinity and political power, where women played an indispensable role in maintaining the stability of the empire? What do you think about power relationships in ancient civilizations? Could queens have played an equal role to kings in maintaining and expanding the power of the empire? Share your thoughts below this video. Part 10. Unanswered Questions. The Red Queen and the Mystery of Cinnabar. Cinnabar, the fiery red mineral that the Maya used in rituals to worship and cover the body of the Red Queen, has not only spiritual value, but also raises questions about the mystery of this civilization. When archaeologists discovered her tomb, they found that cinnabar was not simply a worship material, but also had serious toxic effects, containing mercury, a substance that, with prolonged exposure, can cause poisoning and serious health damage. So, did the Maya truly understand the properties of cinnabar, or did they simply sense its divine power? This adds to the curiosity about how the Maya approached death and the afterlife. Cinnabar is not the only material that holds strangeness in the Red Queen's tomb. The jade, the ritual tools, and even the special location of the tomb all make us think about how ancient civilizations treated power and spirituality. She was buried not only with precious objects, but also as a manifestation of the relationship between earthly power and the supernatural world. In addition to cinnabar, jade was also an extremely important material in the Maya civilization, considered a symbol of eternal life. These jades were used not only in rituals, but were also buried with powerful figures to ensure that their souls would have protection in the afterlife. What is strange is that jade, although very precious, was not the only item considered sacred. The Maya also placed great importance on the use of natural tools such as bone, stone, and even wood in their rituals, suggesting a very delicate blending of the natural and the divine. Does the use of cinnabar, a toxic mineral, in their rituals to worship the gods reflect a contradiction in the beliefs of the Maya? Did they truly understand its harmful effects, or did they simply sense a magical power it brought to their sacred rituals? What do you think about the use of toxic materials in religious rituals? Can we see similarities in other cultures using natural items with spiritual power? Share your thoughts in the comments below this video. Part 11. The Red Queen's Power and Legacy. The Red Queen's tomb contained more than just precious artifacts. It also bore witness to an indelible legacy of power. Though her name is not recorded in history, what we have found in her tomb reveals a powerful story of a woman whose power we have not fully understood. The Red Queen may not have been a king or a warrior, but her role in the Mayan civilization, especially in the worship of the gods and maintaining social stability, is unquestionable. When the tomb was opened, a big question arose. Why was the Red Queen forgotten in Maya history? Was she truly a powerful woman who was kept anonymous for social reasons? Or was she simply part of a system in which women's power was never properly recognized? Her omission may have been a way to preserve power for men, but we cannot deny that the power the Red Queen wielded through her artifacts and rituals speaks for itself. One interesting thing about ancient civilizations, especially the Maya, is how they dealt with death and the transition of power. Powerful people in society were remembered not only through stone tablets or historical records, but also through elaborate rituals and burial objects. Items such as jade and cinnabar had not only material value, but also sacred significance, representing a connection between the living world and the world of the gods. This shows that for the Maya, death was not an end, but a transition, a way to maintain power in society and ensure the protection of the gods. Is the Red Queen's absence from history a reflection of the lack of recognition of women's power in ancient civilizations, or is it simply part of a gender-biased historical system? If women's power is indeed obscured from history, is her legacy destined to be forever forgotten, or might it one day be rediscovered? What do you think about the lack of powerful female figures in ancient civilizations? Can we find these traces in modern history books? Share your thoughts below this video and let us know what you think. Part 12. The Red Queen and the Importance of Powerful Women. When the Red Queen's tomb was discovered, archaeologists unearthed not only valuable artifacts, but also a powerful story about the power of women in Maya society. Although she was not named in official documents, the items buried with her proved that she was no ordinary woman. The placement of her tomb near Pau, a powerful king, further confirmed that she was not just a wife, but perhaps a companion in maintaining the dynasty's power. However, the big question that we still have no answer to is why she was not recorded in the Maya history books. Is it because in ancient society, women's power was hidden, especially in civilizations where political power was traditionally male? The Red Queen was not recorded, But through the items buried with her, we see that she still played an important role in maintaining power and keeping the Maya civilization strong. One interesting aspect of the Red Queen's burial is how she was protected by precious items such as jade and cinnabar. It was not uncommon for ancient civilizations to bury precious items alongside their dead. However, in the case of the Red Queen, the items were not only a tribute, but may have been a way to protect her in the afterlife, ensuring that she would not be forgotten and that her power would continue even after her death. Is the lack of recorded names of women in ancient civilizations a sign of a lack of recognition of their power in society? And would other powerful women have been known to history without tombs like the Red Queen's to testify? So, what do you think about recognizing powerful women in history? What can society do today to protect and honor their legacies? Share your thoughts below this video. Part 13, The Red Queen and the Importance of Faith in Managing Power. One of the key factors that allowed the Red Queen to maintain power in Maya society was the relationship between earthly and divine power. From her burial objects to her use of cinnabar, jade, and ritual tools, everything indicates that she was not only a political figure, but also a cult figure. A perfect combination of the power of a woman in Maya society and the strong spiritual beliefs of this community. Her death was not a simple end, but a transition of power, a way to preserve and protect the stability of the entire empire. The Maya believed that kings, queens, and other powerful figures were not only earthly leaders, but also conduits between the gods and the people. They were the ones who maintained the balance between the worlds, who had the ability to connect with the gods to bring good fortune and protect the community. One of the strange things that archaeologists discovered was the location of the Red Queen's tomb. Unlike many other tombs in the area, this tomb was built in a special place, a sacred place for the Maya. The tomb was built in a way that symbolized the transition between the two worlds, with ritual objects placed in a purposeful manner. This suggests that the Maya not only valued earthly power, but also believed in the ability of those in power to maintain harmony between humans and supernatural forces. Can the relationship between earthly and divine power in ancient civilizations explain the importance of powerful figures like the Red Queen? And can we apply these beliefs to modern society, where spirituality no longer plays a significant role in the management of power? Do you think that in today's society, the combination of faith and power can still exist, or have we strayed too far from the spiritual values of ancient civilizations? Share your thoughts below this video. Part 14, The Loss of Powerful Women in History. Whenever we explore the story of a powerful figure from the past, one of the first things we realize is that the historical record is never perfect. When it comes to powerful women in history, especially those like the Red Queen, we find that a lot of information is missing or completely forgotten. This raises a big question about how history has treated powerful women in ancient civilizations. Although the Maya honored and respected their queens, the Red Queen's absence from historical records leaves us with no idea of her true role and influence. Powerful women like the Red Queen, despite their powerful influence in society, are not recognized and honored as such. This is a painful and unfair reality for them. One interesting thing about historical record-keeping in ancient civilizations is how they selected who deserved to be recorded. For the Maya, recognizing powerful figures was not only a recognition of their political role, but also of their divine worth. However, not all of these people were recorded. Powerful women, like the Red Queen, were often forgotten or only known through the items and rituals buried with them, without their names or stories being clearly recorded in the historical records. Is this historical omission a clear example of gender discrimination in crediting merit? Did ancient civilizations truly recognize women's power, or did they only recognize men at the top? Do you think we will be able to discover more powerful women who have been forgotten in history? If given the chance, Who would you like to learn more about? Share your thoughts below this video. Part 15, The Red Queen's Eternal Legacy. Ultimately, when we look back at the Red Queen's story as a whole, we must acknowledge that while her name may have been forgotten, her legacy lives on through her artifacts, rituals, and tomb locations. In the Mayan civilization, power and religion were closely intertwined, and through archaeological discoveries, we can see that she was not only a powerful woman, but also a symbol of the connection between the earthly and divine worlds. The Red Queen is a testament to a time when women not only stood alongside kings, but also played a decisive role in maintaining the stability of an entire civilization. We cannot know all the details about her, but what archaeologists have discovered shows the respect and worship she received from the Maya community. The jade, cinnabar, and other items are not just material possessions, but evidence of the power and influence she wielded. This makes us think about how the histories and legacies of powerful women can be forgotten, but still live on through the material traces they leave behind. One of the intriguing details is that the Red Queen may have been buried with items that she used in her worship of the gods. Archaeologists have not only discovered beautiful jewelry, but also ritual tools that may have been used in rituals to connect her with the gods. This shows another aspect of the power that the Red Queen may have had, not only in the mortal world, but also in the sacred world. Could legacies like the Red Queen's tomb change how we view women's power in ancient civilizations? While women like her may not have been recorded in history, they may have left an everlasting mark in their physical legacy, not only to be remembered, but to continue to influence future generations. Do you think the legacy of the Red Queen could be a testament to the power that women have had throughout history, whether they were recognized or not? Could there be similar legacies of other powerful female figures that we have yet to discover? Share your thoughts below this video. And so, the journey into the Red Queen's story comes to an end. While there's much that remains unanswered, the remains of her tomb and the items she buried with her offer us a fascinating insight into a civilization where power and faith were intertwined, and where powerful women, though unrecorded, were able to leave a lasting legacy. This not only reminds us of the power of forgotten stories, but also raises important questions about how we view and celebrate them. While we may never know everything about the Red Queen and other powerful queens of history, each time we uncover a piece of the past, we open up an opportunity to honor the women who have changed and are changing the world. So please share your thoughts and stories, so that one day these voices will never be forgotten. Good night. Let's kick things off with a story that's been hidden for centuries, the tale of the Red Queen, a woman who had more power than most people in her time could ever imagine. Picture this. It's 1994, and a team of archaeologists in Mexico is digging in the middle of an ancient Mayan city called Palenque. They're hoping to find artifacts, but what they discover blows their minds, a tomb unlike any they've seen before. When they open the stone sarcophagus, they're greeted by something out of legend, a woman's body completely covered in a fiery red mineral called cinnabar. It's this intense, almost otherworldly color that immediately tells them she was no ordinary person. But here's the kicker. There's no name, no inscription, nothing to say who she was. That's what makes this discovery so mysterious. In Mayan culture, power wasn't just about who sat on the throne. Sure, kings ruled and warriors fought, but women had their own kind of power. They were keepers of rituals, mediators between the spiritual and the earthly, and in many ways, the real glue holding the whole thing together. And the Red Queen? She might not have been listed in the official records, but the objects buried with her, jade jewelry, sacred tools, and the bright red cinnabar, tell us she was a force to be reckoned with. Cinnabar is fascinating. This red mineral wasn't just for looks. The Maya believed it was sacred, a symbol of life, blood, and rebirth. They used it in religious ceremonies, smearing it on altars and statues of gods. But here's where it gets a little weird. Cinnabar isn't just some harmless powder. It contains mercury, which we now know is toxic if you're around it too long. Yet the Maya saw it as a way to protect the souls of the dead, to give them strength in the afterlife. That's a powerful contradiction, right? The Red Queen's entire burial site is one big puzzle. She's lying in this tomb next to King Pal's resting place, like some kind of silent testament to how important she was. Archaeologists have debated for years. Was she his wife? His mother? Or maybe even a high priestess with more influence than we can imagine? There's no name etched in stone to answer those questions. But everything about how she was buried, the location, the objects, the cinnabar, suggests she wasn't just some royal consort. She was part of the heart and soul of the empire. What's really interesting is how Mayan society treated powerful women. In the ancient world, we often see men's names written in stone, but women's roles get left out. Yet the Red Queen's tomb is a loud and clear statement. She mattered. She was part of the spiritual and political stability of the Maya. In a way, the fact that we don't know her name just makes her story more intriguing. She's like this quiet but unshakable presence, challenging everything we thought we knew about gender roles in ancient societies. Now, think about this. Why do you think her name was never written down? Was it just the culture of the time, where women's power wasn't something you put on a monument? Or was it a deliberate choice to keep her influence in the shadows, to protect the official story of male rulers? Historians are still debating that, and it's a question that hits at the core of how we remember history and who we choose to remember. One thing's for sure, the Red Queen's story isn't just about her. It's about how power worked in the Maya world, a world where the lines between the living and the divine were thin, and where burial sites weren't just graves, but gateways to something bigger. Her tomb was placed in the heart of the city for a reason. The Maya believed that the spirits of the dead, especially those with power, could help protect the living. They built these tombs carefully, aligning them with the sun and the stars, making sure that everything was just right for the soul's journey. Imagine standing there in that tomb today, seeing the bright red powder that once covered her skin, the jade beads catching the flicker of torchlight. It's like you're touching a piece of a world where power wasn't just about politics, it was about spirit, about balance, about something we're still trying to understand. And that's what makes the Red Queen's story so compelling. It's not just about one woman. It's about an entire civilization and how it saw the world. It's about how even when your name isn't carved in stone, your influence can last for centuries. The Red Queen might be a mystery, but she's a mystery that refuses to fade away. Now, I'm curious. What do you think about how ancient civilizations recorded power? Do you think women like the Red Queen were truly forgotten? Or were they just hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to find them? Let's talk about it in the comments. Stepping deeper into the story, let's talk about what made the Red Queen's burial so unique. When archaeologists started brushing away the dust of centuries, they noticed that the Red Queen's tomb wasn't just about her body lying in a coffin. It was a whole environment, carefully designed to blur the lines between the world of the living and the realm of the gods. This wasn't just any burial. It was a deliberate act of devotion and ceremony. In the Maya world, the placement of a tomb was as important as what went inside it. The Red Queen was buried next to Pal, a powerful king, and that says a lot about her own standing in society. She might not have been mentioned by name, but this tomb placement, it was a silent testament to her status, her influence, and her role in maintaining the power of the kingdom. One of the most striking things inside her tomb was the presence of jade. Jade was the stone of life for the Maya, bright green, shimmering like fresh leaves after rain. It symbolized fertility, growth, and the eternal cycle of life. The Red Queen's tomb was filled with jade beads and jewelry, placed there not just as decoration, but as powerful spiritual tools. To the Maya, jade was a bridge between the human world and the divine. It's fascinating that these jade objects weren't just pretty ornaments. Some of them showed signs of wear, suggesting they were used in rituals before they were laid to rest with her. This detail opens up a whole new layer of her story. She wasn't just an honored woman buried with fancy things. She was a spiritual leader, a participant in rituals that shaped the fate of her people. The rituals themselves are a window into how the Maya saw the world. They believed that everything was connected, life and death, the gods and the people, the sun and the earth. And jade, with its vibrant green color, was a piece of that cosmic puzzle. To them, burying jade with the Red Queen meant giving her the tools to stay connected to that cycle even in death. Another fascinating piece of the puzzle was the use of cinnabar. This deep red mineral covered the Red Queen's body like a fiery shroud. For the Maya, cinnabar wasn't just decoration. It was a symbol of life's blood, of transformation, of power. But here's the weird part. Cinnabar is actually toxic. It contains mercury, which can poison the body over time. The Maya didn't know that, of course. They believed it had magical properties that could protect the soul and guide it safely into the afterlife. This contradiction, something that's both deadly and divine, is a perfect example of how the Maya saw the world. They didn't separate the physical from the spiritual the way we do. Everything was infused with a kind of sacred energy. Even something as dangerous as cinnabar could be a blessing if it connected you to the gods. And that's what makes the Red Queen's tomb so captivating. It's a physical manifestation of this duality, the merging of power and spirituality. It's not just about a woman who was important in her lifetime. It's about how her people saw her as a bridge between their world and the next. Of course, all this raises big questions. Why didn't they record her name? Was it just how the Maya treated powerful women respected in practice, but not in writing? Or was there something about the Red Queen that made her even more mysterious? Maybe she was more than just a queen or a priestess. Maybe she was a symbol of something bigger, something that didn't need a name to be remembered. This mystery fuels a lot of debate among archaeologists and historians. Some believe her burial was meant to show that power wasn't just in the hands of kings. Others argue that the absence of her name is a sign that even in the Maya world, women's roles were too often overshadowed by the men around them. It's a debate that keeps evolving as new discoveries are made. And that's what makes this story so alive even after 1,000 years. Every time we learn something new about the Red Queen, we're also learning something about ourselves, about how we choose to remember the past and whose stories we decide to tell. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think the Red Queen's story challenges the way we see history? Or is it just one more reminder that powerful women have always been there, even if the history books didn't bother to mention them? Let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep exploring this mystery, because the Red Queen's tomb isn't just about the woman herself. It's about how the Maya connected life and death in ways we're still trying to figure out today. The tomb's location right next to Pal's was no accident. It was a statement, a silent but powerful message about how the Maya viewed the relationship between male and female power. Pal was a big deal, a king whose legacy was carved in stone. But the Red Queen's presence beside him says she was just as important in a different, more spiritual way. In a world where written records were all about kings and warriors, this burial arrangement suggests that the Maya valued female power more than we might have guessed. This isn't just some random idea. It's backed up by the way the Maya built their tombs. They believed that the placement of a burial site could guide the soul's journey into the afterlife. That's why they aligned their tombs with the sun, the stars, and natural landmarks. For the Red Queen, this meant her resting place wasn't just next to Pal. It was part of a cosmic blueprint meant to ensure balance and harmony. It's a fascinating thought that even after death, she was still part of the empire's stability. Her tomb, with its cinnabar and jade, was like a spiritual anchor for the living. It's almost like the Maya were saying, she's still here, still watching over us, still keeping everything in balance. One of the most interesting details is how the Red Queen's tomb was never looted. Unlike many other ancient tombs that were ransacked by grave robbers, hers remained untouched for centuries. That's kind of amazing when you think about it. It suggests that even the generations who came after her understood that her resting place wasn't to be disturbed. It also hints at something deeper. Maybe the Maya believed that disturbing her tomb would mess with the balance of the world, like poking a hole in the fabric that held everything together. It's one of those little details that says so much about how they saw the link between power, death, and the divine. What's even more intriguing is how this all fits into the bigger picture of Maya culture. The Maya didn't see death as an end. They saw it as a transition, a journey into another realm where the spirits of the dead still had work to do. The Red Queen's tomb was her gateway, a place where her power could keep flowing even after her last breath. And that's why the lack of her name doesn't feel like an omission. It feels like part of the mystery. In some ways, it makes her even more powerful. She becomes this timeless figure, a symbol of something bigger than just one person's story. It's easy to forget how much work went into creating a tomb like hers. Every jade bead, every cinnabar offering, every carefully placed object was part of a larger ritual. The Maya saw these objects as vessels of power, and by surrounding the Red Queen with them, they were making sure her spirit stayed strong. It's hard not to wonder how she felt about all this. Was she aware of the role she played? Not just as a woman, but as a link between the mortal world and the gods. Or did she see herself more as a protector, using her power to keep her people safe, even from beyond the grave? The Red Queen's tomb is like a story written in stone and mineral. A story that challenges us to rethink how we see power, especially when it comes to women in history. She may not have left behind written records, but the physical evidence of her power is right there for us to see. So, what do you think? Does her story change the way you see the past? Do you think there are other women like the Red Queen out there, hidden in the shadows of history, waiting for us to discover their legacies? Let me know what's on your mind. Let's keep this conversation alive. Digging deeper into the world of the Red Queen, there's something almost poetic about how her story has survived. In a culture that didn't always carve the names of women into stone, she's left an impression that's more powerful than any inscription could ever be. It's in the way her tomb was designed, the way her body was prepared, and the objects that surrounded her in death. The Mayan civilization didn't see death as final. To them, it was a continuation, a transformation of the soul into something that could protect and guide the living. That's why they put so much effort into burial rituals. These rituals were like a bridge, a connection between the world of the living and the spirit world. And for the Red Queen, that bridge was built with cinnabar, jade, and countless other sacred tools. Imagine how that must have looked. A dark, sacred chamber, the air thick with the scent of incense and the glow of flickering torches. Priests in richly dyed robes would have carefully laid each piece of jade, each bit of cinnabar, with the same reverence they gave to the gods themselves. It was a ceremony meant to honor the Red Queen's spirit and to make sure she was never forgotten. What's even more incredible is how the Maya used these objects not just as tributes, but as tools to help the soul on its journey. The worn jade beads found in her tomb weren't just decorations. They were part of rituals, touched by countless hands in ceremonies that reached back through generations. They were filled with prayers and power, meant to help the Red Queen find her place among the gods. This brings up one of the most fascinating questions about her story. Was the Red Queen a queen in the traditional sense, or was she something even more unique? Some scholars think she might have been a priestess or a spiritual leader who guided the Maya through times of turmoil. Others believe She was a queen in every sense of the word, ruling not just alongside Pal, but as his equal in the eyes of the people. And here's where it gets really interesting. In the Maya world, the lines between politics and religion weren't as clear-cut as they are today. Power wasn't just about armies and territory. It was about having the right to speak to the gods, to perform rituals that kept the world in balance. The Red Queen's burial suggests she held that kind of power, a spiritual power that transcended politics and made her essential to the empire's stability. It's such a powerful idea, and it's one that challenges a lot of what we think we know about ancient civilizations. Too often, we imagine that women's roles were always secondary, always behind the scenes. But the Red Queen's tomb says otherwise. It says that there were women whose power was just as real, just as vital as any king's. Of course, there's still so much we don't know. Why didn't the Maya carve her name in stone? Was it because her power was seen as something beyond words? Or was it because the men who controlled the official records wanted to keep her memory in the shadows? It's a mystery that keeps historians debating, and honestly, that's part of what makes this story so compelling. One detail that never fails to capture the imagination is the presence of cinnabar in her tomb. The Maya believed cinnabar could protect the soul, but they didn't know it could also be deadly. This dual nature, sacred and dangerous, adds another layer to the Red Queen's story. It's like she's a symbol of how the Maya saw the world, full of contradictions, but always reaching for something greater. The more we learn about her, the clearer it becomes that the Red Queen wasn't just a figure from the past. She's a window into how the Maya blended power and faith, how they saw the world as a place where the living and the divine were always intertwined. So what does that say to us today? Does her story challenge the way we think about power, especially when it comes to women? Do you think we're finally ready to give these forgotten queens the place they deserve in our history books? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Let's keep the conversation going. What strikes me most about the Red Queen's story is how it keeps unfolding, like an ancient puzzle that's never quite finished. Every discovery in her tomb adds a new layer to the mystery, and every question leads us to rethink how power worked in the Maya world. Even though we may never know her name, her presence is impossible to ignore. One of the most fascinating parts of the Red Queen's tomb is how it reveals the Maya's deep respect for the afterlife. They didn't just bury their dead, they created spaces where the spirits could live on, influencing the world of the living. This belief that the dead still had a role to play is what turned the Red Queen's burial site into something more than just a final resting place. It was a spiritual powerhouse, a place where the past and present were always in conversation. Archaeologists have spent decades trying to understand what her tomb means. They've carefully cataloged every piece of jade, every trace of cinnabar, trying to figure out what it all says about her life and her role in Maya society. And while we may never have all the answers, what's clear is that the Red Queen was someone who mattered, a woman whose power was felt in every corner of her world. One detail that really stands out is the way her tomb was built to align with the natural elements. The Maya believed that the sun, the stars, and the earth itself were part of a larger cosmic order, and they made sure their most important tombs reflected that. The Red Queen's tomb was no exception. Its location and design suggest that her journey into the afterlife was just as important as her life on Earth. And let's not forget the jade. These stones weren't just valuable. They were considered living things with a spirit of their own. By placing them in the Red Queen's tomb, the Maya were giving her more than just wealth. They were giving her a connection to the cycles of life and death, to the heartbeat of the world itself. This blending of the spiritual and the material is what makes the Red Queen's story so powerful. It's not just about her personal journey, it's about how the Maya saw power itself. To them, A true leader wasn't just someone who ruled with force or wealth. It was someone who could tap into the forces that shaped the universe. It's amazing to think about how that idea might still resonate today. In our modern world, we tend to separate politics from spirituality. We think of power as something you can measure in money or votes. But the Red Queen's tomb suggests a different kind of power, one that's rooted in the ability to connect with something bigger than yourself. Of course, there's still that nagging question. Why wasn't her name written down? Was it a sign of the times, or was it something more deliberate? Some researchers think it was a way to keep her power hidden, to protect the balance of the empire by making sure her story stayed in the shadows. Others believe it was just the way Maya society worked, a world where women's power was felt, but not always recognized in the official records. Either way, the absence of her name doesn't take away from her legacy. If anything, it makes her story even more compelling. She becomes a symbol of all the powerful women whose names have been lost to history, but whose influence is still felt in the echoes of the past. So here's what I'm wondering. Do you think the Red Queen's story changes the way we should look at history? Are there other powerful figures out there waiting to be rediscovered and given the credit they deserve? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's see where this conversation takes us. It's incredible how the Red Queen's story keeps pulling us in, layer after layer, like the folds of an ancient tapestry that's been hidden for centuries. There's a sense of wonder in how much we can learn from her, even if we never know her real name. What makes this story so gripping is that it's not just about the Red Queen herself. It's about how her story connects to a much bigger question. How do we remember those who came before us, especially the ones who didn't get their names written down? One of the most powerful parts of her story is how it challenges what we think we know about power in ancient civilizations. We tend to imagine that kings and warriors were the ones who made history, while women were left in the background. But the Red Queen's tomb says otherwise. It tells us that women held power too. Maybe not in the same way as kings, but in ways that were just as essential. This isn't just some romantic idea. The evidence is right there in her burial. The jade, the cinnabar, the careful placement of every object. These weren't just tributes. They were proof that she was a spiritual force, someone who had a hand in the rituals and ceremonies that kept the Maya world turning. And let's not forget about the way her tomb was protected. While so many other burial sites were raided or destroyed, the Red Queen's tomb was left untouched for centuries. That's a sign of deep respect, a recognition that her spirit was still a part of the world, even long after her physical body was gone. The more you think about it, the more it feels like her tomb was a message, a way of saying that her power couldn't be erased, no matter how much time passed. It's a message that still resonates today, reminding us that there are stories waiting to be uncovered, even if the names have been lost. One of the most fascinating details about her burial is how the Maya used the elements of nature to create a spiritual environment. The cinnabar that covered her body wasn't just about beauty, it was about transformation, about turning her from a mortal woman into something eternal. The jade wasn't just a decoration, it was a symbol of the life force, a promise that her spirit would live on. This blending of the spiritual and the physical is what makes the Red Queen's story so timeless. It's a reminder that power isn't just about who holds the sword or wears the crown. Sometimes it's about who can touch the divine, who can act as a bridge between the human world and something greater. Of course, all of this leaves us with so many questions. What was her daily life like? Did she feel the weight of her role, knowing that she was part of something bigger than herself? Or did she see her power as just another part of life, something as natural as the sunrise? We may never have all the answers. But in some ways, that's what makes her story so powerful. The mystery invites us to imagine, to question, to wonder. It's a story that refuses to be pinned down, just like the Red Queen herself. So I'm curious, How does her story make you feel about the role of women in ancient societies? Do you think we've done enough to honor their contributions, or is there still more work to be done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation alive. As we keep peeling back the layers of the Red Queen's story, there's one idea that keeps coming up again and again, that in the Maya world, death wasn't an ending, it was a transformation. And the Red Queen's tomb is the ultimate expression of that belief. Every inch of that sacred space was designed to help her spirit move from this world to the next, to make sure her power didn't just vanish but became something even more enduring. This idea of death as a transition rather than a final goodbye is something that feels almost universal, even today. But for the Maya, it was woven into every part of their lives. And nowhere is that clearer than in the way they buried their most powerful figures. The Red Queen's burial wasn't just a private ceremony, it was a public statement that she was still part of the empire, even if she wasn't there in the flesh. Think about it. The bright red cinnabar covering her body, the jade laid out in precise patterns, the careful alignment of the tomb with the sun and stars. All of it speaks to a worldview where life and death were two sides of the same coin, and where a leader's role didn't stop just because their heart stopped beating. But there's something else here that's just as important. The Red Queen's tomb isn't just about the spiritual side of things. It's also a window into how the Maya balanced power between men and women. By burying her next to Pal, they were sending a message that her power was equal to his, even if it wasn't recorded in the same way. This challenges a lot of what we've been taught about ancient societies. It makes us question whether the stories we've been told about kings ruling and women just supporting are really the whole truth. The Red Queen story says no. It says there was more going on, more nuance, more complexity, and that's a message that feels especially powerful today. One detail that really stands out is how the Red Queen's tomb was so carefully protected. In a world where grave robbing was all too common, her resting place was left alone for centuries. Maybe it was fear that disturbing her tomb would bring down some kind of cosmic punishment. Or maybe it was respect for a woman whose power was still felt long after she was gone. Either way, it's a powerful testament to how the Maya saw their leaders. They weren't just rulers. They were spiritual anchors, people who held the community together in ways that went beyond politics or conquest. So where does that leave us? The Red Queen might not have left behind written records, but her tomb is a story in itself. It's a story about faith, about power, and about how the Maya believed that the past was never really gone. It was always there, shaping the present. And that's something that feels just as true today as it did 1,000 years ago. We're all shaped by the people who came before us, even if we don't know their names. Their stories, their struggles, their hopes, they're part of who we are, whether we realize it or not. I'd love to know what you think about that. Do you feel like the Red Queen story changes how you see your own place in the world? Or do you think it's just another reminder that history is full of powerful women whose voices are finally starting to be heard? Let's keep talking about it in the comments. Moving deeper into this incredible journey, let's pause to think about how the Red Queen's story forces us to look at power in a whole new way. We're talking about a civilization that existed more than 1,000 years ago, yet the questions it raises feel just as relevant right now. Power wasn't just about politics or conquest. It was about connecting the seen and the unseen, the living and the dead. One thing that really jumps out is how the Red Queen's burial objects weren't just symbols of wealth. They were tools of spiritual power. The Maya didn't draw a line between earthly power and the divine. In their world, the two were completely intertwined. The jade, the cinnabar, the ritual tools, they weren't just there to honor her. They were there to help her keep doing her work, even after death. And that's something we don't always think about today. We tend to see power as something you either have or you don't, something that fades as soon as you're gone. But the Maya saw it differently. For them, real power was something that could transcend time and space, something that could keep a community stable even when the leader was gone. It's a reminder that power isn't just about titles or fame. It's about the ability to shape the world around you, to keep your spirit alive in the hearts of your people. And in the case of the Red Queen, that power was so strong, it's still echoing today. Another detail that fascinates me is the way archaeologists have pieced together her story from tiny clues. Every jade bead, every trace of cinnabar, it's like putting together a puzzle where the final picture is never quite complete. But even the fragments are enough to tell us that the Red Queen was someone whose influence went far beyond her own lifetime. It also makes me wonder how she saw herself. Did she know how important she was? Or did she see her role as just one part of a much bigger picture? Was she aware that the rituals she led and the ceremonies she took part in would keep her memory alive for centuries to come? There's something almost haunting about that idea. It's like she's speaking to us across the centuries, reminding us that power isn't always about being remembered by name. It's about the impact you leave behind. And there's one more twist in this story that really shows how complex the Maya world was. The Red Queen's tomb wasn't just about her. It was part of a whole system that kept the empire together. Her burial was a statement about the relationship between the living and the dead, between those who ruled and those who worshipped. It was a symbol of balance, a reminder that every part of society had a role to play. So when we look at her story today, it's not just a piece of ancient history. It's a window into how power and spirituality can come together in ways that are still hard for us to wrap our heads around. And it's a call to keep looking for the stories that have been hidden for too long. What do you think about that? Do you see echoes of the Red Queen's power in the world today? Or do you think her story is a reminder that real power is something we're still learning how to understand? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep exploring this amazing journey together. As we keep weaving through this tale of power and mystery, there's something almost cinematic about how the Red Queen's story unfolds. Here we have a woman buried in the heart of an empire, her name lost to time, yet her legacy still pulses through the jade and cinnabar that cradle her remains. It's a story that's both haunting and inspiring, like a song that refuses to be silenced. What really brings this story to life is the location of her tomb. She wasn't buried on the fringes of the city, hidden away from view. She was laid to rest right next to Pal, one of the most powerful kings of Palanque. That's not just a burial spot, it's a statement. It says that the Red Queen's role in the empire was too important to be pushed aside. She was right there at the center of it all, even if history didn't bother to write her name down. And that makes you think, maybe power isn't just about what gets written in the books. Maybe it's about what you build with your hands, what you create in the hearts of your people, what you leave behind that can't be erased by time or memory. One of the strangest and most fascinating parts of her story is the way her tomb has been preserved. Unlike so many other ancient sites that have been looted or destroyed, the Red Queen's resting place was left untouched for centuries. That's a level of respect you don't see every day. It's like the Maya themselves understood that her spirit was still part of their world, even if she wasn't there to walk among them. The deeper we dig into this story, the clearer it becomes that the Red Queen wasn't just a figurehead. She was a spiritual leader, a symbol of the balance that held the Maya world together. Her tomb is a testament to that. Each jade bead, each swirl of cinnabar, each carefully placed relic tells us she was more than just someone's wife or mother. She was a bridge between the human and the divine. But of course, the mystery remains. Why wasn't her name carved in stone? Was it a cultural tradition, or was it a deliberate choice to keep her influence in the shadows? Some historians think it was about maintaining the balance of power, keeping the official records focused on the kings while the queens held their own kind of power behind the scenes. That's a theory that raises all kinds of questions about how we write history and who gets to be remembered. It makes you wonder how many other powerful women have been lost to the ages, their names swallowed up by the silence of time. And it makes you wonder what we're missing by not listening to those voices. Still, there's a kind of poetic justice in how the Red Queen's story has survived. Even without a name, she's become a symbol, a reminder that true power doesn't always need a title. Sometimes it's the quiet strength, the unwavering presence, the ability to hold a community together, even when your voice has been forgotten. So here's my question for you. Do you think the Red Queen's story is a call for us to look deeper into the past, to search for the voices that have been left out of the history books? Or do you think it's a sign that the real stories of power are the ones that live on in the spaces between the words? Let's talk about it in the comments and see where this conversation takes us. As we follow the echoes of the Red Queen's story, there's this sense that we're piecing together something much bigger than just one life. Her tomb, with its intricate design and powerful symbols, feels like a map to a whole different way of seeing the world. One where the line between life and death was never really a line at all. What I find especially fascinating is how the Red Queen's burial was filled with objects that were both beautiful and deeply spiritual. The jade, the cinnabar, the ceremonial tools, each piece was more than just a relic. They were part of a living tradition that saw every object as a vessel of meaning. In the Maya world, these things weren't separate from daily life. They were part of the rituals that kept the universe in balance. Cinnabar is such a perfect example of that duality. It's bright and vivid, a fiery red that must have looked like something out of a dream in the flickering torchlight. But it's also dangerous, a mineral filled with mercury, a poison that can kill as surely as it can preserve. The Maya didn't see this as a contradiction. They saw it as proof that life itself is a mix of beauty and danger, of creation and destruction. The Red Queen's tomb captures that idea perfectly. It's a place where power isn't just about wealth or status. It's about how you fit into the grand design of the world. And in that design, the Red Queen was a key piece, a guardian of the bridge between the human and the divine. One of the most haunting details of her story is how the Maya saw the tomb as a sacred space. It wasn't just a grave, it was a place where the soul could rest and where the living could still connect with the dead. That's why the tomb was aligned with the stars, why every object had its place, why the air itself seemed to hum with something beyond this world. It's this sense of continuity that makes her story feel so powerful. The Maya believed that even in death, a leader could protect the people, guide them, and keep the balance of the universe in check. And the Red Queen, with her carefully chosen resting place, was a part of that cosmic order. But as much as we've uncovered about her, there's still so much we don't know. What did she see when she closed her eyes for the last time? Did she feel the weight of her role, the knowledge that her spirit would be part of the Maya world forever? Or was she simply at peace, knowing that the work of her life would carry on in the hearts of her people? These are the kinds of questions that keep historians and archaeologists coming back to her tomb. Every time they find a new piece of jade or a new carving in the stone, they're not just learning about the past. They're learning about how people in the ancient world understood their place in the universe, and how that understanding shaped everything they did. So let me ask you, does the Red Queen's story make you rethink how you see power and legacy? Do you think we can learn something from the way the Maya wove faith and leadership together? Or have we lost touch with that balance in our own world? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Let's keep this conversation. One of the most captivating pieces of this story is how the Red Queen's tomb wasn't just a static place. It was a living connection between the past, the present, and everything the Maya believed about what came next. It's amazing to think that even though her name is lost, her story keeps drawing us in, like a thread pulling us back through time. What really stands out is how the objects buried with her weren't random. They were chosen with such intention, like pieces in a sacred puzzle. Each jade bead, each cinnabar-coated relic, was a statement about who she was and the power she held. not just as a woman in her own time, but as someone who was meant to guide her people long after she was gone. I keep thinking about how the Maya saw these burial items not just as offerings, but as tools to help the soul travel, to keep the balance of the universe in check. It's such a different way of thinking about power compared to how we see it today. Back then, power wasn't just about controlling people or amassing riches. It was about being part of something bigger, something cosmic. And that's what makes the Red Queen so fascinating. She wasn't just a ruler or a queen in the sense we usually imagine. She was a bridge, a way for her people to connect with forces they couldn't fully understand, but they knew they needed to respect. One thing that keeps coming up for me is how the Red Queen's story forces us to question who gets remembered and who gets forgotten. Her name isn't carved in stone, but her legacy is there in the way her tomb was built, in the care that went into every ritual, in the respect that kept her resting place safe for so many centuries. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important stories aren't the ones written down in books. They're the ones etched into the fabric of a community, held in the quiet spaces where the living and the dead still speak to each other. And that brings up one of my favorite parts of this whole journey, the idea that the Red Queen's tomb is more than just an archaeological site. It's a place where we can see how the Maya wove together the threads of faith, power, and tradition into something that's still vibrant, even today. Of course, we can't forget the mystery of why her name was never recorded. Some say it was to protect her, to keep her power safe from those who might try to use it for their own ends. Others think it was just the way the Maya saw things, that the essence of a person was more important than the name they were given. Whatever the reason, the Red Queen's story is a reminder that power isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, woven into the smallest details, waiting for someone to come along and see it for what it is. So what about you? Do you think the Red Queen's story says something bigger about how we should think about the past? Or is it just one more piece of a puzzle that we're still trying to solve? Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's keep this journey going together. As we keep unraveling the threads of the Red Queen's story, there's one truth that keeps coming through. She was a woman of incredible influence, even if her name never made it onto a stone tablet. In a world where power was often measured by who got their story told, she's a testament to the fact that real power doesn't always need a name. What I find so captivating about her tomb is how it blends the personal with the cosmic. This wasn't just a final resting place for one woman. It was a space where the Maya's deepest beliefs about life and death played out in every curve of jade, every flicker of cinnabar. The Red Queen was a part of that, someone whose power was felt not just in her own lifetime, but in the way she was woven into the spiritual tapestry of her people. One of the most striking things about her burial is how it challenges the way we think about gender roles in ancient societies. We're so used to hearing about kings and warriors, but the Red Queen's tomb says, hold on a minute, women had power too. Maybe it was a different kind of power, more spiritual, more hidden, but it was real, it was essential, and that's something that still resonates today. In a world where we're finally starting to recognize the contributions of women that have been overlooked for so long, the Red Queen's story feels like a call to action. It's a reminder that history isn't set in stone. It's always evolving, always ready to be rewritten with the voices that were left out the first time around. Another piece of the puzzle that I can't get enough of is how the Red Queen's tomb was protected for so long. While so many other burial sites were lost to time or plundered by grave robbers, hers stayed safe. That says a lot about how her people felt about her. They weren't just honoring her memory, they were guarding it, making sure her spirit had a place in the world for centuries to come. And it makes me wonder, what does that kind of respect look like today? How do we honor the legacies of people whose names were lost to history, but whose impact is still there if we're willing to look for it? The Red Queen's story isn't just about the past. It's about how we see the past, how we choose which stories to tell, and which ones to leave out. And in that way, it's about us too, about the questions we're willing to ask and the truths we're willing to hear. So here's my question for you. Do you think the Red Queen's legacy has something to teach us about how we see power, especially when it comes to the more we explore the Red Queen's story, the more it feels like she's a bridge between the world of the past and the questions we're asking right now. Her tomb, with all its careful details and quiet power, doesn't just tell us about her. It tells us about the people who built it and the world they believed in. One of the things that really stands out is how her burial site wasn't just about her death. It was about the way the Maya saw life itself. To them, the boundaries between the living and the dead weren't as solid as we think. They believed that the spirits of their ancestors were still part of their daily lives, helping to guide them and keep their communities strong. The Red Queen's tomb is a perfect example of that belief in action. The jade and cinnabar, the way the tomb was built to align with the natural world, it all says she's still here. She's still watching over us. It's a kind of faith that doesn't just look backward, it looks forward too, seeing the past as something that can still shape the present. And that's something that really resonates, even today. We live in a world that's so focused on what's new and what's next. But the Red Queen's story reminds us that the past isn't just a series of old stories. It's a living part of who we are. It also makes me think about how we decide whose stories get told. The Red Queen didn't have her name carved in stone, but her legacy is there in the objects she was buried with, in the respect that kept her tomb safe for so long. It's a reminder that power isn't always about having your name in the history books. Sometimes it's about the quiet influence that shapes everything around it. One of the most haunting details is how the Red Queen's tomb was filled with objects that were meant to help her spirit on its journey. The Maya didn't see those objects as just things. They saw them as companions for the soul, guides to help her navigate the world beyond. It's such a powerful idea that even after death, you're not alone, that the world you leave behind can still be part of the world you enter. And in that way, the Red Queen story is bigger than just one person. It's about a whole worldview, a way of seeing life and death as a cycle, not an end. It's about the faith that even when we're gone, our actions, our rituals, and our stories can still keep us connected to the people we love. So, here's what I'm wondering. Do you think the Red Queen story says something about how we should see our own legacies? About how we can honor the people who came before us, even if we don't know their names? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going and see where it takes us next. Every time I think about the Red Queen story, I'm struck by how it challenges the way we usually see the past. We're so used to thinking of history as something that's set in stone, dates, names, and facts that never change. But the Red Queen's tomb shows us something different. It shows us that history is full of mysteries and questions that still matter today. One of the most powerful parts of her story is the way it blends faith and leadership. The Maya didn't separate the two the way we often do now. For them, a leader wasn't just someone who gave orders or fought battles. The true leader was someone who could keep the balance between the human world and the divine. And in that sense, the Red Queen was just as important as any king. It's amazing to think that this woman, whose name we don't even know, played such a vital role in the world around her. She wasn't just a figure in the background. She was part of the spiritual heartbeat of her people. And that's a kind of power that doesn't need to be written down to be real. One of the most intriguing questions is how she saw herself. Did she see her power as something she was born into, or was it something she earned through the way she lived? Did she understand that her role went beyond her own life, that her spirit would keep guiding her people even after she was gone? It's hard to know for sure, but what's clear is that the Red Queen's legacy is still with us, in the way her tomb speaks to us across the centuries. It's a reminder that real power doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it's quiet, woven into the rituals and traditions that hold a community together. And that brings us to one of the most fascinating parts of her story: the way her tomb was protected for so long. It's almost like the Maya were saying, this woman mattered. Her spirit still matters. And we're going to make sure she has the peace and respect she deserves. In a world where so many voices get lost, that kind of respect feels like a powerful statement. So what does all of this mean for us today? Maybe it's a call to look closer at the stories we've overlooked, to find the voices that have been lost or silenced. Maybe it's a reminder that power isn't just about who gets the loudest platform. It's about who keeps the balance, who keeps the faith, even when no one is watching. I'm curious, what do you think about the way the Red Queen's story blends faith and power? Do you see echoes of that in the world today? Or is it something we've lost touch with? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. There's still so much more to explore. As we near the end of this journey through the world of the Red Queen, there's one last piece that ties it all together. The idea that real power, lasting power, is something that goes beyond the names and the titles. It's something that lives in the rituals, the stories, and the quiet moments of faith that connect one generation to the next. The Red Queen's tomb is a perfect example of that. It's not just a place where one woman was laid to rest. It's a testament to a whole worldview, a way of seeing life and death as two sides of the same journey. In the Maya world, that journey didn't end when your heart stopped beating. It carried on in the people you left behind, in the stories they told, and in the balance you helped keep alive. One of the most fascinating things about the Red Queen's story is how it challenges us to think about what really matters. She didn't have her name written down in the history books. She didn't leave behind a list of accomplishments carved in stone. But she left behind something even more powerful, a sense of presence that still speaks to us today. When you stand in front of her tomb, or even just see pictures of it, you can feel that presence. It's in the way the jade glows in the light, the way the cinnabar seems to catch fire in the shadows. It's in the way the tomb was built to line up with the stars, as if the Maya wanted to make sure she would always be part of the bigger picture. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Maybe the most powerful legacies aren't the ones that shout the loudest. Maybe they're the ones that keep whispering, generation after generation, until someone finally stops to listen. The Red Queen's story is also a challenge to the way we think about gender and power. It says that women have always had a role in shaping the world, even if the official records didn't always say so. It's a reminder that the real history is often found in the places no one thought to look, in the quiet strength of those who kept the rituals alive and the balance steady. So as we wrap up this story, I want to leave you with one last question. How can we carry that lesson forward? How can we make sure that the voices of those who came before us, especially the voices that didn't get written down, still have a place in the way we see the world today? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's keep this conversation going. Because if there's one thing the Red Queen's story shows us, it's that the past is never really gone. It's just waiting for us to see it in a new light. Now, let's take a moment to reflect and wind down together.